TNA Wrestling crossed the line again with another Impact fun-filled Impacts episode this week. We had Monsters Ball. We had some really interesting matches announced for next week's pay-per-view that I cannot wait for. We had a contract signing. There was so much going on in this week's episode. Let's get straight into it. And it all began with Hammerstone and Alexander beating the hell out of each other. Alexander was busted open. There was security trying to intervene. It just didn't happen. They couldn't separate these two monsters. Dreamer made his way down to ringside. He asked Alexander to calm down. He asked him to head to the back. He turned to Hammerstone and said they were in front of the best fans in the world and that Hammerstone was in TNA because of him. And Dreamer said that there was too much going on tonight. Stop brawling because we're so close to Rebellion. But as Tommy was heading out to the back, Hammerstone hit him from behind, locked him in the torture rack. But Dreamer then made a blockbuster announcement for Hammerstone's match with Alexander at Rebellion next weekend. It is going to be Last Man Standing. Holy hell. TNA have pulled this one out of the hat. What a match. It was going to be a great match, even if it was a single. The fact now it's got the last man standing stipulation, it is going to be crazy. We finally got the Digital Media Championship match started after that massive brawl. Crazy Steve against Laredo Kid. Good little back and forth this match for the Digital Media Championship, but Laredo snapped really at the end of this match. He was trying to, they was trying to take off a digital. Crazy Steve was trying to take off Kid Laredo's mask, and he just went crazy. He got him in the corner, shoved the referee, and got forced a DQ finish. But it was really weird. He was literally hammering at Crazy Steve, and the referee was trying to break it up, threw the referee out of the way, and then was disqualified. So did not pick up the victory, did not win the Digital Media Championship, but a real, first time we've ever seen some real aggression from the Raid. I wonder where that's going with that. But did Crazy Steve retains the Digital Media Championship. Now they have announced another exciting pay-per-view, June 14th, against all odds, will take place from Chicago at the Cicero Stadium in Chicago, Illinois. Really going to be good. Tickets go on sale on the 20th of April. We're right on Rebellion, which is great. There was a nice bit backstage. Now, if you remember the last few weeks, the Time Splitters, Motor City Machine Gun, Shelly, Sabin, and Kushida really haven't been on the same page. There's been a lot of, dissension in the ranks. Kushida threw in the towel to cost Shelly the World Championship. They were backstage, and Alex Shelley apologized to Sabin. He apologized to Kushida. Said he wanting to do things on his own, and stated that Time Machine are much greater as a unit. Sabin and Kushida accepted the apology and agreed with him. So hopefully, they're now going to be back on the same page and working together. We kind of know Shelley and Sabin are apparently have left TNA. We don't, not officially, but we heard that they was wrapping up their commitments during the last set of tapings. So this week or next week could be one of the last times that we see Shelley and Sabin in the TNA ring. And if that is the case, thank you very much for what you've done for TNA throughout the whole of your reign there. You've been absolutely fantastic. If it's not and you're back, even better news, but we'll wait and see. The next match was First Class, Rich Swann and AJ Francis. If you remember, Rich Swann's aligned himself with AJ Francis, and they were going against Bullet Club, ABC, and Austin and Swann really started this match really quickly. Two great competitors in there, cruiserweight-ish, sort of in that, I'd say X Division style weight class. They were doing some really started the match, but quickly. But Swann then quickly tagged out to AJ Francis. This match was actually really good. AJ Francis is really impressive, and again we said before that he never really got the chance, perhaps, to show what he can do elsewhere. I saw a video of him last weekend, I think it was. It might have been in GCW. He was doing some crazy stuff off the top rope and bits and pieces. So the fact that he's getting the time, the fact that he's doing stuff in the ring, and he's on screen every week, you're starting to see the AJ Francis character a lot more now. And it's actually showing what a great character he actually is, and he's actually a really decent wrestler. This was a really, really good tag team match. Kind of, I wouldn't say I was surprised. I kind of didn't know expectation wise how to set this. I know Bullet Club ABC are fantastic. They've been around a long time. Their tag matches are brilliant. But when a new tag team like Rich Swann and AJ Francis, who haven't been tagging together, you never quite know how these matches are going to work. But this was actually really, really, really good. And First Class picked up the victory with a handful of tights as Rich Swann rolled up Ace Austin. Now, Bullet Club ABC have also been going through some trials and tribulations themselves. So I do wonder whether this is having an effect on them, and whether, we kind of nearly saw the breakup of Motor City Machine Guns and the Time Splitters or Time Machine. Are we looking that way for Bullet Club ABC? Is there going to be some issues here? Because last week, I think Ace Austin was saying to Chris Bay about doing a lot of singles action and not focusing on a tag team division. This week they did face a tag team division and lost. So we'll be interested next week on Impact to see what goes on with ABC, assuming they're on the show. But after the match, it hadn't finished. Joe Hendry appeared. We do believe in you, Joe, that's for sure. And he was reciting verses from the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air theme song, but referring to Francis as Uncle Phil. He spoke to Santino Marella as well after singing the song, and he announced it's going to be Joe Hendry and Rich Swann at Rebellion next weekend. That should be a really good match, actually. Looking forward to that. Speaking of Santino, he was backstage and he was met by the personnel and Ash by Elegance. She was ready for her Knockouts title match at Rebellion, but instead of agreeing to it, he said Santino just left him hanging. Obviously, Ash didn't compete in the 8x4x1 match that was to crown the number one contender, which Seth Delander won. She was having surgery or something, or she had some sort of surgery. She took on Zaya Brookside last week as well. So, yeah, does she deserve an opportunity at the title yet? I'm not so sure about that, but Santino left him hanging, which was good. Mustafa Ali and the Grizzled Young Veterans. These guys right here, ladies and gentlemen. They can't really see the scarf. We've all disappeared, but I have got a Grizzled Young Veterans scarf. We're next. And basically, that Ali was saying that his match against Jake something shouldn't have taken place. He weren't rebelling at all. But Jake something did interfere and say this match was indeed going to take place. And later on, he competes against one of the Grizzled Young Veterans. We'll get into that in a minute. There was a contract signing. Jordan Grace, Steph Delander. You know where these things go. Matt Cardona was with Steph Delander. You know that these contract signings never go according to plan, do they? During the contract signing, Jordan Grace called Matt Cardona a bitch. She finally did sign the contract. They shook hands, but there was a lot of aggression in the handshake. They started to brawl. Morella was knocked down, and Delander ended up putting Jordan Grace through the table and posed with the Knockouts Championship. Is that a sign of things to come next weekend? We're gonna have to just wait and see. Masha Samovich was backstage at this point. She was interrupted by the System and Eddie Edwards. He said that her and Alicia could make a great team. Samovich gave her the answer, but she gave it in Russian and then left. And they just left Eddie, Alicia, Brian very confused at that point, which was quite funny. I don't know what, I mean, we'd have to see if we've got some Russian people that can explain what she said, but I'm not quite sure it was the yes that they were looking for. There was another really great promo after this. Jonathan Gresham, obviously on his way back to TNA, can't wait for this. He was in a ballroom full of people and he was reflecting on the mask that he wears in his life. And this is really building up nicely. That was a great one, great promo last week, doing it again this week. I kind of like want him back now, but I also want him to keep these promos going because I really, really enjoy them. They're so in, it really sometimes I never really knew that, John Gresham in the ring, I knew was fantastic, was a great worker. Promos, I never really see him do a lot of promos, and maybe it's because maybe I didn't watch it enough or he never really had a chance to cut them properly. But when he's doing this, his work in this has been absolutely sensational. And only in two promos, but he's already got me invested, partly because I know how good he is in the ring. But these promos that are airing are so well done, by not only by Gresham, but by TNA, that it's showing this guy can actually do everything. And I can't wait for Gresham to come back and see what he's up to upon his return. Moose was next. It was non-title against our good boy Trent 77777 Trent and 7. This was a really good I always say this a lot when I see Trent 7 compete over here in the independents over here in England. He's always, I don't want to sound disrespectful for TNA here, but it's always like a WWE style match. It's very well put on. It's on point, and it's not a disrespect to TNA when I say the word WWE on this program. It is because the match is so well done, and and that's testament to the producers, it's testament to the talent, but it's the way that Trent Seven works it, and he works it in such a way using that experience that he gained when he was in the WWE and NXT UK. And this match was really, really good. It it was just, yeah, it was just like that old school match I love seeing week in, week out. Moose did pick up the victory though, and he did look strong in this game to Rebellion. And I think that's important with your champions. You do sometimes see it where champions sometimes struggle to pick up victories before you go into a major pay-per-view where you're defending the title. And I don't like that, because I always see it as your champions. I'm not saying should be squashing everybody, but they should be booked in a manner that would go, when you go to a pay-per-view, you're like, yeah, that's fine. He beat this guy, he's beaten that guy on the way, he's looked good. And they've done this with Moose every time he's competed, and whoever he's competed against, he's been strong in his match. I mean, he's a strong guy anyway, but Trent didn't look, it was no harm on Trent on this one. Trent, in terms of the defeat, it didn't necessarily harm him what he's been doing. Speedball Mountain's been great, and perhaps we'll see a bit more of Speedball Mountain as a unit rather than singles going forward. But yeah, Moose looked really strong in this. The system did try to get some bit more revenge on Trent for whatever reason, trying to do more damage. They were both quick. Speedball Bailey then come in as well to try and even the odds a little bit. He was cornered quickly. He managed to hold his own for a second or so, but they were on the attack again. But before they could do too much damage, Time Machine, Motor City Machine Guns Kushida, were back out to even the odds up, and they did. And then it went backstage to Morella, and he was interrupted by the system. Santino's had a lot on his plate on this episode of TNA. He has literally had so much going on, and I feel for him a little bit on this. But anyway, the system were there. They were angry about everything that just happened. Morella stated that the system would defend the TNA Tag Team Championships next week against the Motor City Machine Guns, Shelley and Saban. I'm not getting the words out, double S. And they would take, the winners of that will take on Speedball Mountain at Rebellion. And just when Santino Morella thought his day couldn't get any worse, there's the decay. Rosemary and Havoc, and they want their Knockouts Championship rematch for the tag team titles at Rebellion. And Santino did a good thing here, and he just agreed to it. I think that's the best way, you could do on this. Was agreed to just, you can have you start a rematch with Rosemary and Havoc. There, he's had a bad night, Santino, on this. Jake, something I did mention earlier on, was going to be taking on one of the grizzled young veterans. It was James Drake this time, and something was really using the power advantage to this. Drake, grizzled young veteran, he was using his ways, and it was really, really good to see. Yeah, just that clash of styles. Sometimes the clash of styles doesn't always work. It did in this. And it was actually good. And having Gibson outside really played into Drake's, arsenal there. There's a lot of times during a match, early doors, where Zach Gibson was getting involved. There was a bit where something had Drake up in the corner, and he went to the opposite corner, but Gibson grabbed his leg, which was annoying. And that was enough to ignite Cody Deaner, who hit the ring to even up the odds. He took out Gibson, something followed up by nailing Drake with the Void for the 1-2-3. So Cody Deaner helps Jake something. And that brought out Mustafa Ali, and he wasn't happy, but he was quickly quieted, sorry, as something dove to the outside over the top rope, taking out his campaign before grabbing Ali himself. And at this point, Grizzled Young Veterans would recover to allow the grit your teeth. And as Dina was attempting to make the save, he was taken out, and something was finished off as well. And Ali and the Grizzled Young Veterans just proved to be a little bit too much for those two guys. Now, the match I've been looking forward to the most. I've been saying this for weeks. We needed to see PCO versus Con in a Monsters Ball, and it happened. They'd been without food, water, or light for 24 hours. It was the 58th Monsters Ball in TNA history, and they were here to create havoc. And my God, they create havoc. They started off and it was like a traditional wrestling match. And I'm thinking, where are they going with this? Why are they doing traditional wrestling in a Monsters Ball? And it's sooner. It was like, well, that escalated quickly because they then grabbed kendo sticks. There was chairs, there was garbage cans, there was everything you could imagine, tables, the lot. And of course, there was thumbtacks, which going Con put in PCO's mouth. There was the bit where Con climbed the top rope and crashed and burned through a ladder. Oh, there was just so much in this. It was absolutely crazy. And PCO did finally hit the massive PCO salt and win the 58th Monsters Ball. But, we're 9 days away from Rebellion, and it's going to be interesting to see who actually walks away with the gold that night. Because some of those matches, Nemeth and Moose and people like that, we had a lot of title changes at the last one. This one feels bigger, and every pay-per-view they get seems to get bigger and bigger and bigger. The Lander looks strong tonight, and seeing her put Jordan Grace through the table, I think has put that belief on there that she can go and win the championship, because everyone sees Jordan Grace. I mean, she's not the tallest, but she is powerful and strong. She's the juggernaut for a reason. But Steph DeLander, to be able to gain that advantage and put her through the table, perhaps that makes her a slight favorite now, perhaps. And you can argue this for Speedball Mountain. Yes, they didn't have a good week this week, but Trent did stand his ground with Moose, and with the system next week going against the Motor City Machine Guns, Speedball Mountain will have an opportunity to simply watch on and create that game plan for whoever they're taking on at Rebellion, whilst the system and Motor City Machine Guns go for battle. And you can't rule out Moose on this. I mean, he's looking more powerful and dominant than ever, but is that enough to take out Nick Nemeth, who's been on this crazy roll since coming into TNA? I don't know. I really don't know what we're going to look at with this. That can literally go either way. And you kind of there's no real losers for us, I don't think, in that match particularly. But this week, solid show from TNA, and I'm really looking forward to next week. Their go home to Rebellion should be an absolute belter. So far, we've got the system against the Machine Guns for the tag titles. The winners of that will go against Speedball Mountain at Rebellion. We have Hammerstone in action next week after that crazy brawl with Alexander just before the last man standing match. And Nick Nemeth will be on the show to share his final thoughts ahead of Rebellion. Do not miss it next week on AXS or YouTube. You can go on the TNA Plus app as well. It is going to be a great show. We'll be back to review that next week. We'll be reviewing the pay-per-view Rebellion as well. Keep an eye out for that. Keep an eye out on us on all social media platforms as well. And until next time, everybody, this has been the TNA Review Show, and I have been your host, Adam Cousins. Take care. Good day.